I don't know if you mentioned this, but you
Yes.
talked about trying to open up the previous little quizzes that we took to see if we can look at those. Were you able to do that or no?
I did. I think I went through and if you go on your quizzes, there's a section that says or a little link that says post quiz view, and you should be able to pull up the quizzes that you've taken. Ooh, hold on. I think my battery's about to go dead. Hold on. Hey, Simon. Simon, can you run and get my charger for me for my laptop? It's upstairs in my room. Thank you. Hurry. Thank you. Run like the wind. Thank you. Okay. All right. See, kids come in handy every now and then. All right. Yes, in my room. It's plugged in beside my bed. Thank you. Okay. Crud. I forgot what I was saying. I'm sorry. Okay. Anywho, we're gonna go ahead and get started. I think there's not really that much left of the chapter to cover today. They don't actually go very far into the American Revolution. We're just basically getting started on it, leading up to it, and basically to the Declaration of Independence. And so we'll get through that today. Okay. Did we talk about? Perfect. Thank you so much. Hey, can you crawl under there and plug that in? Can you crawl under there and plug that in? Under there. Yes. You're smaller than me. You fit better. Okay. Get it? Yes. Okay. So did we talk about the Boston Tea Party at all?
Yes. Yeah, I think we mentioned it, but yes, we did. Sorry, never mind.
Yeah, we went over it.
Okay, good. Thank you so much, darling.
I think we stopped. We got to the Boston Tea Party, and then I think we stopped.
You said you wanted to stop.
We stopped right as the government they forced the governments and people around to dissolved.
Yes.
So they can't do meetings and stuff without and all that stuff. The Britain started enforcing stupid stuff.
Yes, fantastic. Okay, so those are, and your book goes into a lot of detail about these. The coercive acts is what they're called. It's England's attempt to punish the vandalism of the Boston Tea Party. So England calls them the coercive acts. In the colonies, they're called the intolerable acts. Well, a little different. But there's 5 parts to the coercive acts. And like I said, your book goes into quite a bit of detail, I think, about the different provisions of the coercive acts. But the key ones that you really need to focus on here are, first and foremost, they closed the port of Boston. They shut down Boston. 2, they annul the Massachusetts Bay Colonial Charter. So saying essentially Massachusetts doesn't really count as a colony anymore, not a British colony. They dissolve or restricted the colony's political institutions. Yes.
I have a question.
Sure.
It is about the annulment of that colony. What happens to those people?
No.
I know that's a weird question, but like, what? Yeah. Because in the book, I don't remember there being really any reaction of them being like,
it's not like they're gonna leave.
Fair.
Yeah, like they're not moving out. They're not going anywhere. They just are not recognized as a British colony anymore.
Okay.
And at that point, I feel like probably most of the colonists are like, okay, sure. Like,
Britain may not recognize them as one, but the colonies are still going to recognize them as
as a legit,
legit place. Like they're still going to, everything's going to function. It's just, hey, you're not a state anymore. I mean,
right?
Okay,
it's like,
what does that actually mean for us?
Yeah, they're not going to be like that area that used to be Massachusetts. They're still going to call it Massachusetts. You know what I mean? So, not.
Thank you. For some reason, whenever I heard it, I was like, "Oh, what?"
Yeah.
Sorry.
I think just in name only, it's just sort of a show of force, like they could do it pretty much. And then, they're still allowing British soldiers to be quartered in homes. in Boston. And then, oh yeah, dissolve the colonies' political institutions. A lot of the other colonies did this as well. They started dissolving they dissolved the other colonies' political institutions, meaning they stripped power away from the local governors and tried to institute more British policy based policies. Yeah, that doesn't go over all that well in most of the colonies. So, and like I think I said this too, there are some people who thought that the Tea Party was too radical and that it gave them a bad name and made them look like, you know, rabble rousers. It gives them a bad name. Some people thought the British this was like the only thing the British would respond to, like they forced them to do this. They didn't want to, but you made me, sort of situation. So I don't know, two sides, right? Two sides to every story.
What were the other two things important? Because you said there were 5, or did you say there were only?
So that was 4 that I just did. I don't know. I think the last one was about militias, about
Quartering.
Trying to take away their ammunition, gunpowder, stuff like that. I think your book talks about the colonies now start realizing that this is going to become a situation, and so they start preparing and they start building up their militias and like stockpiling gunpowder and guns and things like that, you know, just in case, to get prepared for that sort of thing. So
And then I remember in the book there was one specific example where like one governor, British guy in the position went to go to a building that housed gunpowder. Sorry, I don't know how to say words today.
That's okay, go ahead. Yes.
And somehow, like, they went, nothing bad happened. They just got the guns and gunpowder and then they left. But somehow there was like a huge rumor that like a ton of people got hurt and everything happened. So like 3 towns of people came over and they were like, hey, what's happening? And it took a little bit, but like nobody got hurt. They were just like, oh, this is serious. Tensions
this is serious.
High.
Yeah, they're taking our stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So the colonists are starting to, I think, realize that this is getting even more tense than it already has been. And I think most of them, I don't want to say most of them, but a lot of them feel like they have passed the point of no return here. And so something drastic is going to have to be done. And that's probably going to mean militias. That's probably going to mean getting prepared for some kind of battle. So they're starting to do that. They also call a convention in Philadelphia in 1774. They convene a meeting in Philly to discuss what to do about the British and their policies in the colonies and what they have done so far. They call the Continental Convention in Philadelphia. Why? Does anybody know why Philadelphia? Anybody? It's a Jeopardy question. Philadelphia was actually our first ever capital of the colonies. And it's our first ever capital of the official United States of America. It's our first capital. Yeah.
And then, like, didn't it move to Washington because they burned down our first White House?
In the War of 1812, the White House was burned down. Yes. And the Adams very nearly escape. Like they just leave. The British come in and eat the dinner that they were eating. Like they come in and just sit down and finish their food. That's how close it is. And they barely make it out. Yeah. Yeah. Continental Convention in Philadelphia in 1774 as a result of the Intolerable Acts. So all the colonies except one send a representative. You have a guess which one doesn't send a representative? Just a guess.
Georgia.
It's Georgia, exactly. So 12 of the 13 colonies send representatives to Philadelphia, and we're talking super important, famous founding fathers, lots of them. John Adams, George Washington, Patrick Henry, all those guys go to Philadelphia to discuss what needs to be done. Yes. I'm sorry, Miranda, did you have something?
Yeah, sorry. I know I'm jumping in a lot. But didn't some of the states also send like someone else that was like more on the British side to kind of even out the talk a little bit? I know I could be wrong, but like I thought I read something with that. It could have been for something else though.
Maybe. I don't really know. I'm not 100% sure. I just know that it was each colony sends each colony sends a different amount, not two from each colony go or whatever. It's just a group from each colony go meet up. But I'm not 100% sure if they send British representatives or not. I mean,
and it wasn't like, sorry, I probably said that wrong. I'm not exactly a British representative, just someone who was more on the side of the British. They were like, oh, well, we should probably be more calm about this.
Okay.
Yeah, sorry, my bad.
No, that totally makes sense, because this meeting is their attempt at trying to avoid a war. This is like sort of their last ditch attempt, basically, at trying to avoid a war. So they're coming together. They have to try to agree next step, what the next step is. So basically the first thing they do is they all agree they have to denounce the intolerable acts. That's not fair. So they all agree, yes, we have to denounce that. The other thing is they continue the boycott of all the British goods. They decide to do that. They continue the boycotting. A lot of people hope that this is going to lead to some sort of peaceful situation. They're trying, at least, not to engage in a full all-out revolution, because they don't feel like that would be good for them, good for the colonies, for sure. At this time, the British Army and Navy are the strongest in the world. They're the biggest and the strongest in the entire world. So to go against the British Army and Navy at this point, just a ragtag group of 13 colonies, it doesn't sound like a great idea. Doesn't sound very smart. So they meet. I was going to say, Patrick Henry meets with the Virginia legislature in March of 1774. And this is when he gives them his really famous speech. I think probably if anybody knows just about anything about Patrick Henry, it's basically the give me liberty or give me death. That's basically, what he's most famous for, I guess. But he gives this really impassioned speech to the Virginia legislature that says we have to, quote unquote, prepare for inevitable conflict with the British. And he lists all the acts that the British have passed to get the colonists to pay their share, make money from the colonies. So he goes into all of that. And he strengthens the resolve of at least the Virginia colonists to basically fight for what he tells them is their basic rights. And he gives this really impassioned speech. And at the end, the last line of this speech is, and he stands in his chair to do it. He stands up on his chair to give this line, give me liberty or give me death. And so, the Virginia legislature basically is like, yeah, and they're ready to go at that point. There is no resolving peacefully, at least not for most of Virginia after that. So most of the colonies now agree that probably the next smartest thing to do is to get their militias prepared. You guys know what a militia is? You know what a militia is, right? Yeah.
Isn't it like a tiny army kind of thing?
Yeah, basically. It's just a volunteer group. They come together, you bring your own guns. You volunteer to defend an area, like a county or a town or whatever. We still have militias, technically. They still exist. But they're not like officially recognized as military. They're just volunteer. organizations that volunteer to like protect or defend or whatever, a specific area. So we get together all of the militias. They start building up supplies, trying to save up their supplies. George Mason, there's a college named after this one, George Mason University. So George Mason calls for militias to be ready. And this is a quote, a well-regulated militia composed of gentlemen, freeholders, and other free men is the strength and only stable security of a free government. So they felt like their militias were incredibly important, right? We don't have an army yet. We're not even technically a country yet. We're just a collection of colonies. So we certainly don't have an army. So he's trying to let everybody know a well-regulated militia is definitely something that needs to be focused on. It's very important for us right now. Do you recognize that wording? That wording comes into play later in the founding documents. Do you recognize it at all? Just curious. Has anybody ever read the Second Amendment? Second Amendment's a really big political touching point for a lot of people, especially within the last few years. It has become a major, major political ordeal. I don't know. Okay, the Second Amendment technically says you have the right to bear arms to maintain a well-regulated militia. So those words, the founding fathers knew how important a well-regulated militia was. So that's why it's in there. Okay, anywho, so the thing is, the colonists understand how important militias are. The British also understand how important the colonist militias are. And so they try to, one of their first priorities is to try to disarm the militias. They start in Massachusetts because it's sort of the hotbed of resistance at that point. And so they start in Massachusetts. They send troops to Concord in April of 1775 to seize gunpowder and other military supplies. The colonists know that the British are coming. They just don't know exactly how they are coming into Boston. They're either marching in or they're coming in by sea, right? One if by land, two if by sea, right? You know this poem, you know the story, The Midnight Ride of Paul Revere. So it becomes the job of the Sons of Liberty to keep an eye out, to keep watch for how the British soldiers are coming into Boston. And so Paul Revere is supposed to hang lanterns in the window of the North Church to let the rest of the riders know how the British are coming into Boston. So does anybody know? One if by land, two if by sea. You know how they come? Just curious. Two if by sea. They come by sea. And they come in. So he hangs the lanterns, and then supposedly, this is in the poem, he gets on his horse and he rides through town. He rides through Boston on his way to Concord, screaming out, "The British are coming! The British are coming!" There is a slight issue there. That's not what he says, first of all. Why would he not say the British are coming? Why does that not make sense? You have any idea?
Would it be that they already knew the British were coming?
They did know that they were coming, but he's supposed to warn the town that they're here now, basically, is what he's supposed to be doing. But he would not have said that the British are coming.
So the British are here?
No.
Or that they're coming by sea?
No. They're all British.
Didn't he call them the Redcoats?
I'm sorry, what, honey?
Didn't he call them the Redcoats? Say the Redcoats are coming?
No, they don't technically call them. Well, I mean, they do kind of call them Redcoats, but they call them regulars. Because they're all British. They're all technically, I mean, even the colonists are British citizens.
Yeah, no, Haley Jones put in the chat because they're also British. Yes. She deserves credit.
Thank you. I don't have the chat up. Hold on. So Yes, because they're also British. That's exactly right. So, so he's riding through town on his horse, and he is telling everyone the regulars are coming. I think is the term that historians have come to agree that he has used. So, the regulars are coming, and in the poem he makes it, and he saves the day. Right, he lets everybody know they're coming, and so they get prepared. That's technically not what happens. He is captured along the way. A couple other people have to finish his ride for him. One is Dr. Samuel Prescott. He's another son of liberty. So he takes over, he finishes his ride, but in the poem, it just, it makes him seem very heroic and patriotic to ride through town yelling that the British were coming and to warn everybody. So, it's one of those things. And the poem is written in like 1860, so it's like 100 years later. So, okay. So the alarm spreads quickly. We know that the regulars are coming. The colonists know that they're coming. So by the time that the British get to Concord, by the time they get there, there are roughly 700 British troops and roughly 60 or 70 militiamen. So vastly outnumbered. Skirmish happens. Don't exactly know who fires the first shot. Nobody knows who fires the first shot of the American Revolution, but this is it. It becomes known as the shot heard around the world. So somebody fires, somebody gets shot, thus beginning the first battle of the American Revolution. So the first battle is at Lexington and Concord. Lexington and Concord kind of get smushed together here because they are two towns that are they're side by side. They're literally on top of each other. So Lexington and Concord, that's the first battle of the American Revolution. Lexington, technically, if you want to get technical about it. The British then continue to march on through Concord. But when they get to Concord, they are met with a much larger militia force, right? Because these guys have had enough time to gather. They're all meeting up there. They face a better organized militia on the North Bridge going into Concord. The Brits are forced to retreat. This is huge because this ragtag group of militias have now turned back a group of Royal Marines. This is a huge deal, a group of British Royal Marines. So kind of a big deal. The British retreat. They go to, the first stop is to head towards Williamsburg, because in Williamsburg is an armory full of gunpowder and guns. So they're going there to try to destroy this stuff. Patrick Henry finds out that the British are headed to Williamsburg. And so he plans to march on Williamsburg too. He's going to lead a group of militiamen to Williamsburg as well. The thing is, so the British get there, and the guy in charge, the royal governor, Lord Dunmore, this is his name, Dunmore, he says that if the militiamen come into Williamsburg, he is going to declare all the slaves in Virginia free. He's going to free the slaves if the militiamen attack Williamsburg while they're there. He wants to, so he says, if they attack, he is going to overthrow the rebels and reduce the town to ashes. That's his promise. So they don't attack Williamsburg. They wait just a tick. 2 weeks later, Lord Dunmore issues an official proclamation. And it's called Lord Dunmore's Proclamation. That's what it's called. Okay, so he basically says he offers freedom to any slave who will join the British forces in helping to put down the American rebellion. He offers freedom to any slave who wants to join the British Army, Navy. Would you, as a slave, would you have done this? Would you have run and joined the British? Just curious. There's no right or wrong answer. I'm just curious. Probably.
If you're looking at a larger picture, you probably would think the British with the bigger army is probably going to win.
Yeah, since
You're
like
like, oh
they
yeah, sure, I want my freedom. That's easy.
Yeah.
I'll fight
Yeah.
for my freedom.
Yeah.
and since they're like the best in the world with their army and navy, it would be a safe bet. So probably I feel like I would,
Yes.
but I also want to be like, no. But knowing myself, I would probably.
I think I might have too. I don't know. I think I told my first class this morning. It kind of reminds me, and I know this is in no way equated, but this is what it reminds me of. If you have seen Django Unchained, if you've seen that movie, where the Christoph Waltz offers Jamie Foxx, hey, do you want to join me and be a bounty hunter? And Jamie Foxx says, you're going to pay me to shoot white people? Okay, I can definitely do that. So I think maybe a lot of slaves, I don't know. I think maybe if it were me, that might have been my mindset. Like, oh, I get to shoot these people now? For sure. Let's do that. I don't know. Of course, that's all. And I don't know, but just kind of.
Another thing that I wonder, like, if the British did win, of course, this is a huge what if.
Yeah. Oh, there's whole books written about this. Yes.
Like, would the slaves still be free? Would they have gotten their freedom?
So slavery was in the almost, slavery is almost illegal in England at this point.
Okay.
They're really close to making slavery illegal in England.
So right about there, and probably it would. Okay,
yes,
cool.
Probably. Yeah, I'm assuming. Okay, so 2 weeks later, he issues his proclamation. Within a month of issuing his proclamation, 300 slaves have joined Lord Dunmore's, he calls it his Ethiopian regiment. Within 6 months, there's 800 slaves in it, and then former slaves, excuse me. And then at the peak, eventually there's 1,100 former slaves who have joined Lord Dunmore's Ethiopian regiment. So he gives them housing. I mean, it's not great, but it may be better than what they had. So housing, he's given them a uniform, including on their uniform is a big white sash across the front that says, what does it say? Liberty to slaves. So, remind you what you're fighting for there. And he gives them a gun. So, I don't blame him. I think I might have too. I might have joined up too. Yeah. Okay. So the Virginians, of course, are outraged that he has issued this proclamation and that he has freed their slaves. They basically feel like he is using their own slaves against them, which, I mean, let's be real, that's basically what he's doing here. But they feel like that is just a low blow, that's beyond, that he crosses a line here. I don't know, whatever. There are 2 groups of people. How much time do I have left? Okay, so there's 2 groups of people here. You have, well, 3 technically, but 2 you need to know. One, you have the patriots, and these are the people who are all on board. They want to fight for independence. And then 2, you have loyalists. Loyalists are the group of colonists who want to remain loyal to the British Crown. So right at the beginning of the American Revolution, you've got roughly 1/3 of the colonists who are considered patriots, who want to fight for independence. And then you have about 1/3 of them who are loyalists, who want to, just stay loyal. And you have 1/3 who are undecided. They don't know where they stand yet. It's just starting to happen, and they have not made up their minds yet. So the group of loyalists is made up of a couple different types of people. First and foremost, Quakers. Quakers are technically considered loyalists, not because they wanted to remain loyal to the British government, but because they're pacifist. They just don't want to fight. They don't want to take up arms, period, because that's their religion. And then 2, the other group of people who really want to remain loyal the wealthy, really upper class. So far, this colonial governmental system has worked out very well for them. They want to keep their money, they want to keep their land, they want to keep their titles. So fighting for independence is going to take that away, and they really do not want that. So you have the wealthy, and then you have religious groups who make up most of that loyalist population. Is that the right word? I don't know. Okay, so 2 months after Lexington and Concord, so in June of 1775, is the Battle of Bunker Hill. It's the next kind of major battle of the American Revolution. It is a technically British victory. However, the British suffer really heavy losses. They lose about 800 wounded, 226 killed. Most of them are officers, which is a big deal. Americans are able to, the colonists, excuse me, are able to retreat and regroup and suffer relatively few losses at the Battle of Bunker Hill. Really, the important thing about this battle, the thing that you really need to know about this battle, is that it shows the British that these colonists are not just a group of ragtag rebel rousers, that they are willing, first and foremost, and two, that they're able to fight. They are, at this point, they're in it to win it. They are not backing down. They're not going to just capitulate and move on. That at this point, the British are starting to realize, oh, they mean it. Oh, they're ready to fight, and they can, and they are doing it. So the British were not really sure about that yet. And they're the strongest Army Navy in the world. And so they felt like it wasn't really a big deal. They were going to come in, they're going to put them down, they're going to handle it. But after the Battle of Bunkers Hill, they have to start questioning that because they're not 100% sure if that's what is about to happen here. So it really starts to change things right at the beginning of the American Revolution. They hold another Continental Congress in Philadelphia. They hold another Continental Congress and they write a letter. They draft what is called the Olive Branch Petition to send to King George III and basically say, please intervene. Stop this war. You know this is not going to end well for either of us. So let's just stop it now. You give in to our demands, essentially, and we can stop this. Of course, the king says no. I mean, he's got the strongest army in the Navy, strongest army and Navy in the world. So he's not going to give in to demands from these colonists. So it pushes those at the convention to really start pushing for independence even harder. They really start feeling like independence is the only way to go here. So it leads them to fight. They go back home to their colonies and tell everybody, yeah, that was a no-go. Get ready. This is about to be like a real war. We're about to really have to do this now. And so they draft the Declaration of Independence. When's the Declaration of Independence signed?
1775? Six?
Yeah, 76. But you know the day? The day is important.
July 4th.
Yes, exactly. July 4th. That's why we celebrate Independence Day, is because the day we declared our independence from England. Exactly. So I'm just going to go through the beginning of the Declaration of Independence with you. And then that's gonna be it. Okay, here we go. When in the course of human events, this is kind of famous. Do y'all know this? Did you ever have to learn this? I don't know. I had to learn the preamble to the Constitution, but I never had to learn this in school, but okay, here we go. When in the course of human events, it becomes necessary for one people to dissolve the political bands which have connected them with another, and to assume among the powers of the earth the separate and equal station to which the laws of nature and of nature's God entitled them, a decent respect to the opinions of mankind requires that they should declare the causes which impel them to the separation. Okay, that's the beginning sentence. That's literally one sentence. They're long-winded. Okay, this is the part. This is the part I think everybody knows. We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal, that they are endowed by their creator with certain unalienable rights, that among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Okay, so basically the Declaration of Independence is laying out, I think this is just the best way I know how to describe this. The Declaration of Independence is a breakup letter with England. I mean, that's basically what it is. The opening couple paragraphs say, we have been together now. It is no longer working for both of us. Definitely not working for me. It's been real, but now we have to go. Bye. Exactly. So, and then the rest of the Declaration of Independence is essentially a list of all the reasons why we have to break up with them. It's basically, you never did this. You don't let us do this. You never realized when we did this. You know, all the things that you say to somebody when you break up. You never noticed when I got my hair cut. You never bought me flowers. You never, I don't know, whatever. It's been so long since I've been in a relationship. I don't even know what's normal anymore. So all of these things, there's a list. So let me just show you. On mine, I printed it. So this is the opening paragraph right here. It starts here, it goes all the way down and all the way to here. That is literally listing reasons why we have to leave Great Britain. That's a lot of things. It's a lot. And they're very detailed and very specific. But, you know, it's for posterity. They need people to know exactly why we are breaking up with England. And that's why. So here we go. The last of it says, we therefore, the representatives of the United States of America, that's the first time we ever get called that in writing. That's the first official recognizing of the United States of America. And in the original, United is lowercase, which is weird, but United States of America. So, okay. In General Congress assembled, appealing to the supreme judge of the world for the vicissitude of our intentions due in the name and by the authority of the good people of these colonies, solemnly publish and declare. Here it is. That these united colonies are and of right ought to be free and independent states. They are absolved from all allegiance to the British Crown, and that all political connection between them and the state of Great Britain is and ought to be totally dissolved. And that as free and independent states, they have full power to levy war, conclude peace, contract alliances, establish commerce, do all of the other acts and things which independent states may of right do. And for the support of this declaration with a firm reliance, I love this, on the protection of divine providence, which basically just means God, we mutually pledge to each other our lives, our fortunes, and our sacred honor. So, and then they all sign it, right? John Hancock first, right? Huge John Hancock, right? Okay. To let England know, yes, we're serious. This is what we're doing here. This is what we're fighting for. People are so excited. The colonists are so excited about the signing of the Declaration of Independence that they topple a statue of King George III in the town square, and they melt it down, and they turn it into about 42,000 bullets that they then use during the American Revolution. So that's essentially what they thought of the king. Washington orders that the Declaration of Independence be read to all of his troops, all of the army, before they go into battle to psych them all up and get them ready to go. And then very famously, Ben Franklin says at the signing, well, gentlemen, we must now hang together or we shall most assuredly hang separately, right? We're in this together. We gotta figure it out moving forward together as the United States of America. So, okay. I think that is where your chapter ends. It talks specifically about a couple people, Phyllis Wheatley in particular. I love Phyllis Wheatley. She's an amazing, amazing lady. That's in there. which you can read. And Johnny Tremaine, have you watched the movie yet? Have any of you watched it yet? Seen it? Done it yet? No? I mean, it's okay if you haven't. I'm just asking. But specifically, it's about he joins the Sons of Liberty and he participates in the Boston Tea Party. So that's all in there. You know, just what we learned about the Boston Tea Party and what we learned about what led up to it. You see if the depiction in the movie is what you learned. See how it compares, basically, is what you need to do there. Just compare them. Okay, does anybody have any questions or anything in particular that we didn't talk about that you feel like we need to, or you have questions about anything? Okay, then I think I am done. If you have, if you think of anything, please email me, let me know. I check it every day, so just email me. I'll get right back to you. Don't forget your quiz. Don't forget your discussion post for this week. And midterm opens up on Monday. Is that right? Opens Monday. So if you think of anything before then, please let me know. I'm here. Oh, don't forget the SI meetings. Natasha is also available to you if you need her. Okay. All right. I guess that's it. Thank you. I hope you guys have a good rest of your day.
Thank you.
Bye, guys.
Have a good one.